Good evening, everyone.
So you see the little red dot.
I'd like to welcome you all to the May meeting of the Central Independent School District Board of Trustees. Let the record show that we have a quorum of board members present. Moving on to item number 2, prayer and pledge. Mr. Toscano, please.
Sir, trustees, I'd like to call Mr. McKay, our high school principal, to the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Bryant. Good evening, Mr. Bryant, Toscano, members of the board, distinguished faculty, and guests. Welcome to East Central High School and the beautiful Gary Patterson Center for Performing Arts. So at this time, I'd like to call to the podium Cadet Command Sergeant Major Sadie Lopez for the posting of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance and Special Pledge, followed by the prayer that will be given by East Central High School senior Antonio Yanuel.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cadet Command Sergeant Major Sabian Lopez. Please stand, remain standing, and remove your headgear for the presentation of our nation's colors. As the color guard moves into position, I'll be announcing the color guard members. Commanding the color guard and carrying the American flag is Cadet Sergeant First Class Jaden Guajardo. Guarding the American flag is Cadet Sergeant First Class Danica Dean. Carrying the Texas flag is Cadet Staff Sergeant Brian Choa. Guarding the Texas flag is Cadet First Lieutenant Tiffany Romero. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, we are grateful for the dedicated service of the staff of East Central Independent School District. The people in this room tonight for whom are being honored have made significant impact on the lives of our students and our greater community. Thank you for our school board and the district leadership for the many ways they support our students and staff. Please continue to grant wisdom and discernment in your decision making. Lord, keep us safe and allow us to stay focused on what matters most and glorify you by the way we live our lives. Continue to bless our community, district leadership, faculty, and our students. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Louder, face, forward, mark, left, left, right, left, 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 right. Louder, hold, outer, face, close. Fellas, present, arms, order, arms, outer, face, forward, mark, left, 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 right, left, 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 forward, mark.
Thank you, you may be seated. So, as you can see, we have some exceptional students at East Central High School, and hopefully we had a chance to walk up to the building, caught a glimpse of our one-act play, theater performers. So when I call their name, I just want them to stand forward and just give a quick wave, and we'll hold our applause to the end. But Lexi Reeves, we have Megan Kotara, Emily Cano, Alda Valsepo Cepeda, Kayleen Landreth, Edie Pena, Mahalia Hudson, Rain Pollard, Epiphany LeBron, and Jackie Ravaggio. Thank you very much. Great job, daughters. So if you had a chance and you grabbed a snack from the game gym foyer, you heard our trumpet quartet comprised of Nydia Petse, Chase Lubianski, Emily Lopez, and Timothy Huff. We can give them a round. You transition back to the Patterson. Hopefully you saw our Electrothon team. We got a gigantic trophy over there that's with them if you haven't already seen it. They had their electric cars that were out there. They won first place just a few weeks ago in a national race in Pensacola, Florida. So we're just incredibly proud of them. Are Caitlin Canales, Malachi Mercado, Haley Ramos, and Daniel Weiler. So great job, Daniel. And then outside, you didn't know that again, our art department had tricked out, and you saw Jamie Hoffman out there playing, and we call that now the Patterson Plaza. And it was incredible, the sound of the music that he was playing was out. So Jamie, where you at? Did he make it in? There he is, there's Jamie. Good job. So when you entered the lobby, hopefully you heard the beautiful music from Lizette Razzo Robledo. And then you heard the company from the back is Antonio Inoue, who just led our prayer as well. So great job. And then lastly, but not least, when you entered the auditorium, you heard the smooth sounds of Richard Ramirez. Where are you at? Raise your hand. And lastly, if you had a chance, hopefully you got an opportunity to take a look at the artwork that's out in the lobby. This is a district art fair is going on this week. So outside, we have a lot of our elementary and middle school artwork that is advanced on. And we have a few of our high school pieces that have advanced. But if you have a chance when you're done tonight, it'd be great. If you want to head over to the high school library, I think the hardest job that I have to do as a principal is they say I only get to select 12 pieces of artwork for the principal selection, and I can never keep it to 12 because it's pretty incredible. But let's give one more big round of applause for these exceptional students. Thank you guys. Head on back out when you can. So just, if you're one of the parents of any of these students, if you're in the audience, if you could please stand. Also, we recognize we have any of the parents in the audience. Usually by the time we leave our high school, not as many. But board members, just so you know, on your tables, you received just a small token of our appreciation for your service at ECIC. The cutting board is from our FFA department. The We Are CMOs, that actually comes from our CTE department, and our technology students actually etch those in, so those are laser etched. They did all of that. The shirts were actually provided by the music business program. They had a really, it's gained a lot of national traction. They had an Indie Fest last weekend, and the shirts are from the Indie Fest, and they were initially gave you top. You have a cupcake, it's made by the culinary department, and we want to thank everyone for coming out tonight as we celebrate the dedication, commitment, and loyal service to ECIC and our community. Thank y'all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. We appreciate you bringing those great students up to start our meeting. And, you know, usually when you introduce students, they kind of hang back, but the students in our performing arts groups are a little different. They just step right out there and they let you know who they are. And it's wonderful that they've got that confidence in themselves and their abilities. They do great work. All of our staff does great work. And we appreciate the community that provides the facilities for them, such as the Patterson. I don't know, maybe some of you haven't been here before. If you haven't, I hope you enjoy the building and take a little time to look around. It's a great place for our teachers to teach and our students to learn. And this building is known as the Patterson, and I think I would be deficient tonight if I didn't introduce the Patterson. So, Mr. Patterson, would you please stand up? Thank you, sir. Thank you. So tonight, the Patterson is in the Patterson. All right, well, we're going to move on with our agenda now. And our next agenda is item is awards and recognitions. Mr. Toscano, please.
Sir, Mr. Bryant, trustees, as Antonio so eloquently spoke of during his beginning prayer, we certainly are grateful and appreciative for the many years of service that our staff commit to our children and to our community. Tonight we have the privilege of recognizing our employees for their many years of respective service, to include a very special group of employees who are calling this year their very last in education. And so we'll also have the opportunity to recognize our retirees for this year. So this is one of my personally most favorite meetings of the year, and so I'm trying to contain myself, but I'm very excited. Ms. Coates.
Thank you, Mr. Toscano, President Bryant, members of the board, our honored guests. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We, as Mr. Toscano said, have the privilege of recognizing our exceptional staff members who have reached a milestone in service to their community. Honorees, tonight we celebrate you and the 2,045 years of service that you've dedicated to this district. Like every employee in our district, you were hired with great expectations, and you're here today being recognized because you embody the values of East Central. Our honorees have proven to be loyal, adaptable, persistent, collaborative, team players, people who accept personal responsibility, provide exceptional customer service, and who are fiscally responsible. Some may have come to us with a burning desire to change the lives of students for the better, or just grateful to have a job. But one thing is certain, whether they've been here 5 or 35 years, in the beginning stages of their careers or the end, these people are here because they've become part of the most valuable asset East Central has, and that's our EC family. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you, Mr. Bryant.
Right, we're going to take a break now, so that all of you who need to leave and celebrate with your families can do so, or those that need to go home and do homework or grade homework can do that. We'll take about a 10-minute recess, and then we'll get started again. Thank you so much for being here. Item 4, there has been no one signed up for public comments, so we'll move on to superintendent's reports, our CAST lead update.
So trustees, you'll recall from our goal setting workshop, we spent some time learning about the CAST network of schools and our interest in opening our own CAST school here as a part of East Central High School. And that would be a leadership school around several sectors in the local economy that are high demand. And so at the conclusion of that meeting, the board gave us some direction to turn the CAST network loose to begin to explore possible industry partners for our particular program. And so we'd like to provide the board with a little bit of update about that work, as well as an upcoming press conference as we begin to communicate to our local community as well as the San Antonio community about what we're planning to do in the fall of 2020. So, Amanda?
Well, good evening, Mr. Toscano, Mr. Bryant, and members of the board. We're excited to provide you with an update on the CAST lead school this evening. This evening, I have a representative from CAST Network, so Ms. Carol Mendenhall is here this evening to answer any questions that you may have that I may not be able to answer, and she'll be able to assist us at the conclusion of the update if you have any questions. We are currently in the process of securing our industry partners, some of which do include Visit SA, HEB, Waterburger. We are working with Chef Johnny Hernandez, Optic Security, St. Philip's, Bill Miller's, JW Marriott, Freeman Audio Video, and the San Antonio Restaurant Association, to name a few. Additional partners are in the process of being secured. To date, we have received commitments from Visit SA, HEB, Optic Security, Freeman AV, and the CE Group. We will continue to keep you updated as new partners are added into this list. A press conference will be held on Tuesday, May 28th at 10 a.m. on the front steps of the Patterson Performing Arts Center to announce the launch of CAST Lead. We would like to invite each one of you to attend this exciting event. The press conference will allow us to announce the development of CAST Lead to the San Antonio area, as well as accepting a grant donation for the startup work to begin. Following the press conference, the district will be hosting for the CAST Lead principal position. The CAST network of schools encourages us to utilize a panel format for selection of this principal to include partners from business and industry as well as people from our district. The feedback that these individuals will provide is essential, as this principal will be responsible for continuing to work closely with business and industry as they gain insight on needs and begin to develop opportunities for our students. One additional staff position, a college and career counselor or mentorship coordinator or business and industry liaison, will be hired during the summer after the principal has been placed. This will be at the discretion of the newly selected principal. Additionally, after contacting UIL and TEA, we are able to answer some questions for you. It was determined that Cascade is able to hold its own PEAMS number without affecting East Central High School's athletic eligibility. Therefore, we are planning on the campus having a separate campus number, and students, pending discussion on scheduling conflict resolution, may have the opportunity to participate in some extracurricular sports at East Central High School. As a reminder, the 2019-2020 school year will serve as a planning year for the campus principal and additional staff positions. The first cohort of approximately 120 to 150 students will begin in the fall of 2020. We are beyond excited to have this opportunity to bring this innovative campus to East Central ISD, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions? I think we're good.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, item B, personnel report.
Trustees, this month's report is in your electronic packet on page 10. Just about no activity this month. But we did last week have another successful East Central Independent School District job fair. And reports are that we actually found a lot of auxiliary positions that we needed to fill for next year. So in addition to teaching and administrative staff, we did find a lot of auxiliary positions. So it was very successful. And so just wanted to report that and be happy to answer the questions and provide any additional information that you might have about the personnel report.
All right. Anybody has any questions about that information? All right. We'll move on to the personnel department update.
Ms. Yvette Sanders, our Director of Personnel, will provide the board with a goal update at this time. And the goal update is also, the slide deck is in your electronic packet. And it begins on page 11, and actually page 12.
Mr. Pisano, Mr. Wright, members of the board, I have to report our personnel department goals update for the 18-19 school year. So for performance and productivity, based on survey results that we had received the previous year, our goal was to have 90% of campuses indicate that they were kept informed of where their employees were in the hiring process at a high level of satisfaction. So around mid-year this year, we just sent out a short survey to those individuals who do hiring in the district and from our campuses, and their level of satisfaction regarding consistent and timely updates for recommended employees were 95% were highly satisfied, 5% were somewhat satisfied, and we had 0% that were not satisfied. So for culture and climate survey results, we this year unfortunately did not meet several of our goals for this school year. We did have declines in every area. So for level of cooperation, we had set a goal of 96%. Last year we had 93%. We did go down a few percentage points there to 90.40. For how customers feel valued and listened to regarding the concerns and feedback, again, we had another goal of 96%. That one was our biggest decline to 87.20%. Level of, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go back, I apologize for that. Level of community, go back, I'm sorry. Level of service was 96%, dropped down to 90.4%. Level of communication, again, that one was, our goal was 94%, went to 83.80%. And then, as I stated, the other two, again, had some declines. So some areas of concern that were noted in our survey did have to do with the hiring process, which was a little interesting because we did in our survey mid-year have, that we did well in that area. So we did make another little adjustment to what we're doing in our department, and soon we'll be providing principals with access to view all new employees and their progress through the hiring progress via Google. We've created some spreadsheets for each campuses and all our departments, so they can really see where they are, where they stopped at the hiring process, and that way they can call and ask us any questions or maybe communicate to the new employee themselves. For culture and climate, for emergency operations and procedures, we really focus on substitutes. So to date, we visited 40 classrooms on all 12 of our campuses. And so what we can report is that 98% of the classrooms had lesson plans available for our substitutes when they arrived there on campus. 95% of the classrooms had schedules visibly posted for our substitutes. And 80% of the classrooms had what we call go folders or kits visible for subs. And so those go folders or kits would just provide information for our substitutes regarding rosters, schedules. So if we have a practice lockdown or a tornado drill, they have that information readily available. So that percentage was a little low, and so those campuses where there was a little bit of a concern, we've reached out to them to see how we can help. And I think at this point we're good on all of our campuses, so that might be something that next year we'll just definitely be revisiting and making sure that in regards to having that available for our substitutes is important in regards to safety. So for fiscal responsibility, obviously looking at our budget just from a long and short-term lens, we're looking at our technology needs as a department to reduce any unnecessary cost to repair items that might be outdated. We have really worked to move more toward a paperless system in our department with our onboarding, and so we've really progressed with that this year with our professional staff, paraprofessional staff, and our substitutes. We're going to be moving in that direction with our auxiliary employees starting in June. And so it really has reduced the amount of time our department has to spend with new hires, and it allows them at the comfort of whenever they're able to complete that paperwork prior to starting with us and prior to coming in. And then we're also just going to look ahead at what our future department needs are. Again, continuing with that going paperless, how can we move our recommendations to be electronic and archiving some inactive files that we have just papers, those files kind of sitting out in our back building, and how we can move that to a more paperless system. So that is all I have right now. Do I have any questions?
Anyone have a question? Yeah.
Very impressive slideshow.
Oh.
Kids look happy. I wanted to ask about the Stop the Bleed. Is that just a standard first aid type approach?
It's okay. That's all right. You're going to get no pay back then. Dill is always one step ahead of us. Always. And it's a good thing. She keeps us on our toes. Any other questions?
Quick comment, trustees, I hope what you noticed here is number one, transparency. Right? We're transparent about our current status in all of these areas that are prioritized for us, and we're looking for opportunities. It's not necessarily good or bad, but what do we find? What do we find based on what we've learned in our query, right? But more importantly, you heard several adjustments that were made already. This isn't an autopsy where we're waiting until we get these results, report to the board, and tell you what we're going to do about it next year. These adjustments have already been made in real time in response to the feedback. Of course, it's all about continuous improvement regardless of our current status. And so pleased that we've made some adjustments, and we look forward to being able to report the progress made in our personnel department next year and throughout the year.
Thank you.
All right, now we have the child nutrition department.
Ms. Britton and the A-team, come on down. So this presentation in your electronic packet is on page 21.
Mr. Tristano, Mr. Bryant, members of the board, and guests. I'm Nancy Britton. I'm the Child Nutrition Director, and I have Nicole Brown and Ramona Love with me this evening. They're the Child Nutrition Supervisors, and they're also quite a bit of the face of our program as they're the supervisors out at the site. So I wanted you to be sure and know them. So the Child Nutrition Program has worked on goals this year that are related to our culture and climate for customer service and safety with SOPs, which are standard operating procedures, fiscal responsibility with inventory management, controlling food costs, and performance with staff development, compliance training, and TDA, our AR and our PR reviews. So we'll touch on that just a little bit. So our customer service, we've still worked hard to reach out to the kids and collaborate with the sites. We, in particular, focused this year on celebrating Texas agriculture with TDA and the Farm Fresh Fridays. So we were able to bring in fresh fruit and actually make it a part of the component meal and did some collaborative work. You can see there's some coloring pages that we gave to the students. So we really focused on some of the Farm Fresh and Texas produce. So that was a really good feature. We were also recognized by the Texas Department of Agriculture with a really pretty little certificate. So we also continued our regular collaborations with our holiday meals. We try to still get students to try black eyed peas, and maybe they'll get a little lucky with them. We also had our cowboy breakfast at the same time as the rodeo. We worked on our National School Lunch Week and National School Breakfast Week, and of course, Dr. Seuss's birthday is always a favorite, and I got involved this year too. So working on our standard and safety operating procedures, the Stop the Bleed that you're asking about, we took the district initiative with the Stop the Bleed and the instruction and brought them to the Child Nutrition Department. We actually had a staff development day, and they all learned the Stop the Bleed also. And then we purchased a Stop the Bleed kit for each kitchen. So I know they have them on sites in the other administrative part of the school, but sometimes those things happen in the cafeteria. So we wanted our employees to be ready and also still learn those procedures. And they were delighted. They had lots of questions and they performed beautifully. So that was wonderful for them to have that training. On our fiscal responsibility, we continue to work with our inventory management. It's always a project because we have a couple schools that have smaller pantries and smaller walk-ins, and we have to move some food around. And for that reason, we were approved by TDA to buy a refrigerated truck. So that will help us in the coming bit to be able to move inventory and be able to share it a little bit more efficiently. So when we work on that, like I mentioned last year, we do continue with modifying the menu and offering items that will use the inventory a little more efficiently. And by doing that this year, I was able to ask for additional funding through commodities and had two additions, one about $5,000 and the second one for about $10,000. So we're able to buy additional food with what was a bonus allocation above and beyond what we were allocated for our commodities. Our staff development, like I said, we did the Stop the Bleed, and then we continued with professional standards, which is a requirement of our program that we actually log each individual staff development training hours. And then we also had a compliance training. We did have an AR, administrative review this year. We had a couple little findings. One, there was just an adult pricing calculation that we already fixed. And there were a couple little technicalities and letters that went out to parents. There were phrases that have to be exactly how TDA and USDA wanted them. So
Since then, we've fixed those, and we've already received a letter, and Mr. Toscano received it also, that the AR is closed, and we have completed any corrective action that we needed to do. We had a procurement review this year, which is our processes for purchasing, and we submitted additional paperwork that supports all of our purchases, and we're still waiting to hear back, but we expect that to be a successful procurement review. We're very meticulous about our purchases. This is a wonderful picture of the students at the high school, and if you look in the background, that actually is Ramona in there looking like a student. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Anyone have any questions?
You can see where my attention was.
All right. I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next item is ECPD Department Update.
One and only Chief Dranowski.
I didn't want to apologize ahead of time because I did not bring any gifts. So
You are.
Chief slide deck begins on page 36. I'm sorry, 35 in your electronic packet. 5 looked like a 6. Wow.
Mr. Toscano, board members have the slide presentation because apparently it's not up here. Okay. Yeah, that's all right. I'll just wing it from my people. Good evening, board. Mr. Toscano. For the 2018-2019 Central Police Department goals, our main board goal has always been to provide a safe and exceptional learning environment. Our performance goals this year was goal number 1 was to enhance the safety and security of students and staff by implementing a comprehensive safety program to include monthly safety topics promoted district-wide. Our officers were working with administrators to educate students and staff on various topics. Some of the topics that were discussed and promoted was number 1, school bus safety. The phrase, see something, say something with our hotline. And one that we're always promoting is drug awareness, traffic safety, pedestrian crossings. And one of our major promotions is talk and text later while driving, especially around our campuses and in our community. And pedestrian safety, and then of course we included our yearly health fairs that we're actively involved in. Okay, I apologize, Mrs. Slide. On our goal number 2, which is our culture and climate goal. Our goal was to continue to maintain a 95% positive rating on the mid-year service results. As when we got the results, we were able to continue to meet the 95%, which one of my main goals next year is to go up to 98% and performance of our officers. On our fiscal responsibility goal, as I updated when this duty burns prior to the Super Bowl, on the slides it says that I'm returning 4% to the budget. That's incorrect. As far as being transparent and updated, I'm at 3% this year. And I believe one of the reasons are there was 14 incidents that occurred in our district that cost some of my overtime. And we went ahead and proceeded with some projects for next school year's safety enhancements that we implemented this year to begin the school year with. And I'll entertain any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I'd just like to thank Chief for him and his staff. His staff is very visible in the lakeside community. I'm out there all the time. And every time I look around, I can see a police car coming through. And I think that's very good to monitor that area in the morning and afternoon. Every time I go, I think I see a police car. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, I think we're done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief has one more agenda item.
You got mine.
By statute, our police department is required to provide the Board of Trustees with an annual report, which is actually also submitted
TCLO.
to TCLO, Texas Commission of Law Enforcement. And that's a racial profiling report. The chief will provide that report to the board at this time. The report is actually, the full report is actually in your electronic packet, and that begins on page 46.
Thank you, Mr. Toscano. Board, like Mr. Toscano stated, every year by law, by statute, we have to report to the state of all our traffic stops. Prior to this year, agencies that did not have on-board cameras in the patrol cars or body cams were not required to complete a full two-tier report, which East Central PD has had body cameras and has had cameras in cars, so we've always completed Tier 1 report. This year we got to complete Tier 2 report. All agencies in the state of Texas have to do it. There's no more exceptions to it. That's the only no change in the law that's been on the books for 15 years. I just want to bring that up without going into detail. So the overall report, and these are going to include traffic stops that were conducted by our officers. These are to include school zone speeding violations, bus stop violations, any other traffic violations that these officers have personally observed, and issue citations. Now, when I say issue citations, that includes a written citation and a warning citation. Another change in the law is there's no more verbal warnings. Everything has to be documented. So if the officer decides to issue a warning, there's no more, be careful next time going your way. We issued a warning ticket for documentation purposes. So our police department, for the year 2018, we had a total of 122 documented traffic stops. Out of those 122 stops, 50 of them were female, 72 were male. 4 individuals were black, 1 individual was Asian, 36 individuals were white, and 81 individuals Hispanic. Out of those 122 traffic violations, there was no prior existence of criminal activity. So in other words, there was no profiling done prior to the stop. These are incidents that just occurred in the officer's view. Out of those 122 traffic stops, there was no actual custody arrest taken. And I'm glad to say another year of no racial profiling complaints filed by any citizen of our community towards our officers. I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions? All right, I think we're good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And construction.
Mr. Selby?
They can't see the screen.
Mr. Selby, you may have to just kind of describe to the board the high points of the changes from last month to this month. The presentation is not in the electronic packet, and the board cannot see the screen.
Okay. Well, the presentation will be very similar to what you've heard before. It will just be the updates. Traditional elementary school, they continue to work on warranty items primarily. There's only a one punch list item that's resulting in trying to work out some technology issues that they're having over there. At the PAC, we continue to work towards completion of the punch list. An awful lot of that deals with mechanical systems. We are working with our test and balance folks and the commissioning people to try to make sure that all the mechanical issues are resolved, along with any other items. At Salado, we have moved from phase 4. As you know, last meeting they completed Wing B, and now they're beginning to have the final stages of phase 4 under Wing B. Wing B will be completed by the end of next week and be turned over to the district. They'll move into phase 5, which will be to primarily do renovations in the cafeteria and update the security vestibule in the administration office. At Harmony Elementary School, they've completed phase 4. They've moved into phase 5. They've already completed a great deal of the work that's taking place in the restroom renovations and classroom renovations in the center of the campus. They've occupied what was the library and are now doing renovations to that. They've already made quite a bit of progress there, including working towards above ceiling work and already doing framing on the interior of the building area. Phase 5 will also include a total renovation of the administration complex at Harmony, and that'll be taking place through the summer. Con Valley Elementary School, they've completed phase 4. That was turned over last month. Phase 5, they've already moved into the southeast classroom quadrant and have been working on a lot of the plumbing and other MEP rough-ins in that area. They've already started some of the framing in that area as well. We'll continue to work towards that. They'll be getting the library turned over to them next week, and they'll be continuing to work on the renovations in the library that's part of phase 5. At the end of school, when school is out, they'll get the cafeteria and kitchen turned over to them for the renovations that will be taking place there. And all of that work will be completed over the summer. At Sinclair Elementary School, they've completed phase 4. They're moving into phase 5. And that will, right now, they're working in, have taken over the library and the front 2 classrooms at the computer labs at one time. And they've already started doing, they've done the demolition. All the abatement that needed to be done has been completed. They're starting to put up steel and begin the MEP rough-ins over there as well. The rest of that project in phase 5 will be to take over the admin administration complex and totally gut and redo that. And all of that work will be taking place over the summer and will be completed in August. John Glenn High School Annex, they're very close to being completed. They have completed most of the gym, which is now going to be a shop renovations. They just have to do final painting and complete in that location and throughout the school the final upgrades to the fire alarm system and all of the technology cabling updates that they're doing there. That will be completed by the end of the month and turned over to the district by the 1st of June. East Central Development Center, as you know from the previous presentations, we're going to go ahead and do that work internally with our own staff. We'll contract it out if we need to, separate from working with Doris contractors. But this work will take place over the summer and will allow for the movement of the child nutrition program to be moved into the ECDC complex. Along with curriculum and instruction, we'll have training centers over there. Textbook will have facilities located in that complex, and auxiliary training will continue to be planned to be taking place over there as well. All of that work will take place and the movement will take place over the summer and will be used fund balance to do that work. And that is a quick update to the construction that's taking place under the 2016 bond program and related programs.
Any questions for Mr. Soto? All right, looks like we're good. Thank you, sir. And item H, upcoming events.
In your May and June calendar, trustees, several items to point to, as there's a lot of activity in the district as we close out the year. On the 17th, tomorrow, here at the high school, actually right here in the Patterson, we have our annual Choir Spring Spectacular at 7 o'clock. On Monday, the 20th, we have our annual Academic Achievement Awards here at the high school, again here in the Patterson. That begins at 6:30 p.m. Again, here in the Patterson. Our Athletic Spring Awards ceremony for the spring sports starts at 5 o'clock. And that would be Tuesday the 21st. On the 22nd, which is Wednesday, is the band spring concert we have every year. That starts at 7 o'clock, again here in the Patterson. On the 24th, next Friday, we have a student holiday. That's a staff development day across the district. On the 27th, we have a Memorial Day holiday. School will be closed. On the 28th, here in the Patterson, we have East Central's Got Talent, which we've had, I believe this is probably the 7th annual EC's Got Talent, and that's at 6:30 p.m. Also on the 28th, as was mentioned by Dr. Holman earlier in the meeting, we have our CAST press conference. It'll be right here at the steps at the front of the Patterson. And any of you that could be here, that might be a great opportunity to show support for a very innovative program that we plan to bring about in the fall of 2020. We'll also be receiving, the district will also be receiving a grant donation to start preparation for that program. In June, on the 6th is the last day of school. It's the only early release day in our calendar. Teachers will have a work day on the 7th, and then at 9:30 a.m. graduation at the Coliseum on the 8th. In your miscellaneous packet, hopefully you've received your graduation packet, has your parking pass and associated information, as would be the case each and every year. But you also have a list of graduates, and I believe they've already been divided for each of you to have a fair share, equal share. And as always the case, look through those lists. If there's any students that you know personally that you would like to give their diploma, you guys work that out and notate those as you do every year. The week of the 10th, the district will begin our four-day work weeks. Those will be 10.5-hour work days, and the district will be closed for business on Fridays throughout June and a good portion of July. On the 19th, trustees, if you would mark your calendars, this is not on your calendar, but I wanted to add that we are working very closely with TASA, along with several other districts across the state that are also TPAC districts, meaning these are the districts that are working on community-based accountability systems like we have been. And so we're working with TASA as well as John Tanner, who all of you are familiar with, because he is the gentleman that helped us in the development of our community-based accountability system. They're going to provide some board and superintendent trainings, and then for us it would be one day. We'd drive to Georgetown at no expense other than what it takes for us to get there and get back. They're providing lunch, and they're going to provide two short segments. One is, what does community accountability look like, and how is that different than being driven by state accountability? And what would that look like? And how would that look different for the board in our community? And then the second is a little more advanced. It's how do you take your learner profile and realize it in the decisions you make in the learning environment in schools? What would that look like as you begin to build out a signaling system so that we know in real time if we're having the intended effect, and that we can make adjustments along the way if we're not having the intended effect. So John Tanner is going to provide that. I think it's a great opportunity for any of us that can go to kind of get back into that work and get a refresher, but also have a vision for what it's going to look like this upcoming year as we really begin to operationalize our community-based accountability system. And then also gives us a chance to maybe talk and reflect and be certain that we're moving in the right direction in the right way. And so I will send an email out with more detailed information. We had a conference call yesterday, and so TASA is kind of putting together, it's over 3 days, but they're giving us they're doing the 2 sessions 3 different times to give us flexibility of what's going to work for us. Some districts want to spend 3 days there, some want to spend a day and a half, and I'm recommending that we spend 1 day. So again, I'll be looking for that email. The date will be the 19th, and I'll have an itinerary and then get a head count, so then we can kind of coordinate how we're going to get there and et cetera. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is the following day at 6:30 on the 20th. And then we have our annual budget workshop scheduled for the 27th of June. And that'll be at 5:30 in the boardroom. We've got a couple of items in addition to the budget workshop that kind of inform the budget workshop that we intend to bring to you that day. One is hopefully the legislator has done its work and hasn't extended the session. We've got clarity around any statutorial changes that could conceivably affect our budget. So preparing an update for the board as part of that budget workshop. In addition to that, as we talked about in our goal setting workshop, it's time for us to kind of really look big picture and ensure that the work that we're doing is the right work in the right way, and that we vision forward the next 3 to 5 years so that we can put action plans in place that are in line with where we intended to go. And so I've got a group potentially that I want to bring to talk to us all about what that work might look like for us to think about and consider. And that's all I have in May and June. It's quite a bit.
Anyone have any questions? All right. Personally, I think the June 19th session up in Georgetown would be really good for us to revisit and look at that community-based accountability system. We've been at it for a couple of years now. It might be a good opportunity to go back and review where we are and see what our original goals were with it, and are we meeting those goals. So if you can make that, it would be great. It would be good if we could all get up there and go through that on June the 19th. Okay, so we'll move into our action agenda at this point. Item A, construction project delivery contract award method for construction of Heritage Middle School foundation and structural.
Trustees, as you will recall, we did bring this to you last month, and we have been working on resolving some foundation issues on the east region of the Heritage campus. Actually, the last couple of years, we had finally assessed a portion of that and determined that we could utilize a technique that allowed us to bore into the foundation and lift the areas of the foundation that had shifted using a spray foam technique, which I've got some gentlemen here that can speak more technically to that. But the portion of the campus that we knew that technique would work for worked successfully. What we brought to you last month was we were in the process of testing a more significantly shifted section of the campus, particularly around the gym, some restrooms that go towards the exterior of the gym, some significant shifting, wall cracking, and then in the gym storage area, significant cinder block wall cracking as a result of all the shifting. And we were concerned of some storm or some plumbing underneath the hallways in that area that we might have contributed to the moisture in the area and the shifting. So we were evaluating that. We felt like there was a possibility last month that the results of that testing could lead to some significant work. And we thought that it might exceed $50,000, which board policy requires us to have the board approve an award delivery method, and we asked the board for us to be able to go out for competitive sealed proposals. We got the results of that testing, and it was significant work that we got to do, but it was less significant than we feared. And so as a result, we're coming back to you tonight to allow us, or to consider allowing us moving forward with using a purchasing cooperative. If you recall, purchasing cooperatives actually vet the value of the scope of work to ensure that it is competitive and it is a good value. We would be recommending moving forward with the same company that we've already used for the previous scope that was successful. And so before the board considers that, before I make a recommendation, I did think it was important to bring our architect on this project, Barry Sturrock, as well as our engineer from Terracon, Jesse Aguilar, forward to offer some technical, a little bit more technical overview of what we've already done and what we think we're recommending going forward, and answer any questions the board might have about that scope of work. So I know they're making their way up here at this time. And I know that you guys heard that we were assessing, okay? And so I just wanted the board to know that we did bring an engineer firm as well as architectural firm on this, because we didn't want to band-aid the project. We wanted to resolve the thing long-term, so that's the recommendations that we're going to be considering. So.
Good evening, I'm Barry Stark, an architect with Flock and Stark Architects, and we did do, as Superintendent suggested, we did do some testing. We actually hired a company to come in and survey the floor, so we knew how much out of flat it was. This is Jesse Aguilar with Terracon. He's the engineer that helped the testing. We wanted to kind of like see and look underneath the slab to see what could be causing some of these issues, and I'll let Jesse speak to the testing that we did.
Good evening, it's a pleasure to be here with y'all today. So as we were engaged to help evaluate the extent of the distress, we're primarily looking at what was causing the floor slabs to sag. So we essentially, with the survey that was performed, we measured up to about 2.5 inches of settlement in the lowest spots of the floor slab. And that was primarily concentrated along the front hallway that extends along the entrance, and then it extends to the east, 3 classrooms through 102, 104, and 106. At the same time, we're looking at areas in the back, the southeast corner by the gymnasium, and where there's locker rooms, showers, and restrooms, and storage rooms that where through the plumbing testing that was performed, we did identify that the leaks are present, and it appears that when we went in and did our soil borings, we determined that there has been some influence of moisture that's caused those soils to swell. Pretty common for where we're at. The swelling isn't such that it would cause a lot of repair in that area with respect to the foundation. Over time, as that moisture redistributes itself in the soil, the slab should relax and come back down. But it's going to be very, very small increments. It's not going to be something we should be holding our breath for. But the good thing is that from a structural standpoint, on the floor slab, it's not a structural issue. There are other items that I'll let Barry go into more detail with respect to some of the walls that weren't reinforced to begin with that are going to get rebuilt, just to provide more cohesive structure, and then if the walls aren't cracking the way they have been. But the use of the Uretech foam injection was, as we evaluated the movements, our concern was maybe there was something deeper below the pad. And the pad is constructed, it's basically the top 6 feet of soil that was placed there to try to reduce the potential for slowing soils, for expansive soil-related movement. The pad is performing well, only that it's dried out over time. It's become very dry. And normally the moisture contents would be in the order between the high teens to the low 20s percentage points. The pad that we measured, the moisture contents we measured were in the range of 2% to 11%. So within the last 22 some odd years that the campus has been in existence, the soils have dried. And there's different mechanisms that happens. Sometimes it's just drought conditions and the soil's dry. Sometimes it's the moisture gets pulled out because of tree roots, and then sometimes it's just the soil beneath it that has been missing moisture, pulling that moisture out of it as well. So fortunately, there was nothing going on at a deeper level, and with the foam injection, we're able to bring the slab back in a more level condition. Now, it's not going to be perfectly flat because there's the concrete, once it moves, it never goes back into the exact condition it was before. But it's in a more level condition. It's more comfortable to be in the classrooms for folks that are sensitive and their equilibrium. They don't get that dizziness typically once these slabs are repaired. And so in those areas that we had about 2.5 inches of settlement, we were able to bring the slab back up to about 1 3/4 inches. And so I think it's a definite improvement The gaps that were existing below the walls and slab, those have been eliminated, and now we can readdress those with architectural measures that Barry will handle as part of the design.
Yeah, so thanks for the part of the work we're talking about in the job order contract that we should bring it to you tonight. Is basically the slab's been lifted and it did an amazing job. We lifted up the flat work, the concrete, the walkways out front. And on the east side of the gym, those are back up, but really close to where they used to be. And now we're going to go back in and patch the areas that, we took the wall base off. We're going to go back in and fix that. The areas that Jesse had discussed back in the gym, for like the storage rooms next to the restrooms, there's some cracking in the concrete masonry. We're going to take that out where the crack is and tooth it back in and then put a joint in between the walls, so if it does move a little bit in the future and it could still keep moving, it'll move at the joint and won't crack the masonry. And that's what we're anticipating doing as part of this next phase. And that will be done over the summer. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I recommend board approval of the construction project delivery contract award method utilizing job order contracting, cooperative method of construction procurement for the Heritage Middle School Foundation Structural Project as presented.
Thank you. We have a recommendation from the superintendent to accept the project delivery contract award method recommendation for Heritage Middle School. We have a motion? We have a motion by Mr. Massengill. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Ms. Presses. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item B, appointment of director to East Central Foundation.
Trustees, as you may or may not know, that Mr. Donald Barnett is retiring from city public service, as well as retiring from his volunteer service, longtime volunteer service with our foundation as a director. He is recommending a colleague from City Public Service Energy, Shannon Albert. Shannon and her husband are both East Central High School graduates. Shannon currently serves CPS Energy as the Senior Director of Capital Markets and Cash Management. She is responsible for the treasury and financing functions of CPS Energy, which includes managing a $6 billion debt portfolio. She will be a fantastic addition to the East Central Foundation Board, and we're very grateful for her willingness to serve in this role. I'll be happy to answer any questions about the recommendation of Shannon Albert.
Any questions? There are none, sir.
Trustees, I recommend appointment of Shannon R. Albert to a 3-year term as Director of the East Central School Foundation.
I have a recommendation from the superintendent to appoint Shannon Albert to the East Central Foundation Director position. Chair will entertain a motion. So moved. I have a motion by Mr. Mulkey. Is there a second? Second. I have a second by Mr. Garza. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Need to pull item C from the consent agenda. It will be represented at a future date. Does any board member wish to have another item pulled from the consent agenda? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. I have a motion by Mr. Massengill. We have a second by Mr. Garza. The consent agenda is approved via unanimous consent. We are now going to move to an executive session. So I will read this riveting announcement. Board of Trustees on May the 16th, 2019, beginning at 7:50 p.m., convened in a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Government Code Sections 551.074, Personnel Matters. We will reconvene out here after we're done with our executive session. Thank you, everyone.
Follow me.
The board ended its closed meeting at 9:03 p.m. on on May the 16th, 2019. No action was taken in the closed meeting. Our next agenda item is adjournment. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Garza. Is there a second? We have a second by Mr. Zeal. We are adjourned via unanimous consent. Thank you, everyone.